Good morning. It is now 9:08 a.m. and I will call the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans April 22nd Board of Directors meeting to order. Special Counsel, please call the roll.
Honorable Elena Moreno.
Steve Nelson in place of Mayor Moreno.
Director Hughes. Director Kennedy.
Here.
Director Cole.
Yep.
Director Stewart.
Here.
Director Thomas.
Here.
Director Andrew. Director Andrew. Andrew. I'm sorry.
They said
My
Anthony.
apologies. Director Greenwich.
Here.
Director Pacho.
Here.
Director Scruggs.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. May I first have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 18th, 2026 Board of Directors meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Director Pacho,
Second.
second by Director Thomas. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any opposed, any abstention? Minutes for March 18th meeting are approved. And next, may we have a motion to approve the minutes for the March 20th board retreat?
So moved.
Moved by Director Antrim,
Second.
seconded by Director Thomas. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you very much. Minutes for the board retreat carries. All right. And next we will go into our committee reports. First up, Director Antrim will provide the March 17th, 2026 Strategic Planning Committee report.
Yes, the Strategic Planning Committee met on March 17th, 2026 in the Executive Boardroom. The meeting convened at approximately 9 a.m. I was present along with Director Thomas and Director Cole. Directors Scruggs and Howard were absent. I did provide some opening remarks at the beginning of the meeting to acknowledge the hard work and efforts of the staff and leadership under the current conditions that have continued. I reflected on the utilities strategic planning initiative from 2020 and how that really increased the power and technology investments that have aided the improvement of the Sewage and Water Board over the last few years. We then received a presentation item on an update to our strategic plan for 2027 through 2031 from Rocky Crayley and Catherine Carter of Raftelis. They presented on the utilities upcoming the strategic planning initiative with the current plan set to conclude in 2027. The 27 to 31 kickoff is scheduled to begin in May of this year. Raftelis is going to be supporting us on examining both external and internal operational environments, social trends, and collateral means to help facilitate an effective plan. The Steering Committee and Strategic Planning Committee will collaborate to obtain routine updates until a plan is finalized. And Raftelis encouraged the staff to use the LEO software to stay connected and check the progress of the plan and implementation. There were no public comments, and after no further business to come before the committee, I called for a motion to adjourn. Director Thomas moved and Director Cole seconded. The motion carried, and the meeting was adjourned at approximately 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. May we have a motion to approve this committee report? Moved by Director Thomas,
Second.
second by Director Scruggs. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed, no extensions, motion carries. We've accepted the committee report for strategic planning. Next, I will deliver the Finance and Administration Committee report. Finance and Administration Committee met on Wednesday, April 8th in the Executive Boardroom. The meeting convened at approximately 9:00 a.m. Present were myself, Director Pacho, Director Scruggs, and Director Greenwich. Presentation items, there was an executive summary report presented by our CFO, Gray Lewis. Mr. Lewis reported on preliminary February financials. The report was shortened due to the financial system conversion, which took place February 9th. This replaced a 32-year-old mainframe ledger system with Oracle Fusion ERP. This project is continuing with hypercare support as the team transacts daily inside of the new system. Under revenue, our operating revenue for February were $20.5 million, which is $3.5 million below budget, primarily due to lower bill counts for issued bills. Early reporting for March shows a rebound in the bill counts totals. February drainage taxes were $12.7 million above budget, representing early collections on tax bills due February of 28. Cash on hand section, cash collections of water and sewer bills were $18.9 million in February and improved significantly in March to $24.3 million. Days cash on hand at the end of February were 110 million for water, 213 for sewer. This reflects an increase from prior month, primarily due to efforts to make additional vendor payments before the financial system conversion in February. The complete utility standard financial reporting is set to resume with March and April reports. Under minor drainage and joint infrastructure, Mr. Lewis reported on minor drainage revenue for 2025. While the original estimate from the city totaled $18.9 million to support minor drainage operations and maintenance, utility only received $9.5 million. Revenue for the current year is estimated to total $10 million, consisting of $6 million from the infrastructure maintenance fund, with the balance coming from traffic camera revenues dedicated to minor drainage. The city's first payment of traffic camera revenues in early April for $3.4 million will be utilized to resume cleaning programs through contractors. Meetings with the city continue on this topic, while additional consistent funding sources are needed to grow the minor drainage program with improved drainage services. Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans made a $4.5 million payment to the city's Department of Public Works for joint infrastructure projects in March, with weekly meetings ongoing with GOSEP, the city, and SWBNO. Under S&P, next there was a discussion about recent S&P rating downgrades for water and sewer credits, with both systems now rated at BBB+. This reflects an overall negative outlook on the municipal utility sector. Factors in the rating change included aging infrastructure costs, challenges with rate-making flexibility, as well as general challenges facing the local economy. PFM, the utility, and city's financial advisors plan to present further on this topic at a future meeting. Under customer service, Keith James, customer service manager, and Renell Brown, interim chief of customer service, reported on customer service metrics which have seen an increase in activity in the last 2 months. Additional staffing is being sought to align resources and to shorten the time needed to recruit and onboard customer service representatives. February's answered call rate was 82%, while the department's goal is 90%, and the utility is using a new integrated voice response system as of the first of the year. We had some action items, first of which was deferred. Resolution R, under our general superintendent's report, we had the first contract award renewal was Resolution R040-2026, award of contract 2025 SWB 18 for skilled and unskilled labor for maintenance between SWBNO and Abacus Services Incorporated. There was a motion, I got a motion to defer this resolution. It was moved to defer by Director Greenwich and seconded by Director Pacho. Was deferred. There were two further items under this section. Resolution R032-2026, award of contract 30270, East Bank Wastewater Treatment Plant, Phase IA, secondary treatment upgrade between SWBNO and RNGD Infrastructure LLC. Resolution R041-2026, first renewal of contract 2025 SWB 15, furnishing ferric sulfate to Algiers and Carrollton water plants between SWBNO and USILCO. There was a motion by Director Greenwich, and it was seconded by Director Pacho. Motion carried. Those were accepted. There was one contract amendment, Resolution R034-2026, an authorization of amendment number 3 to the agreement between SWBNO and Westco International for West Power Complex Electrical and Cable Control. That amendment, it was moved by Director Scruggs, seconded by Director Pacho, and carried. This contract change order by ratification, Resolution R007-2026, ratification of change order number 1 for contract 1452, structural and filter rehabilitation between SWBNO and Industrial and Mechanical Contractors, LLC. During committee meeting, Changes were made to Resolution R007-2026. The contract amount was updated from $243,482.28 to $245,645.02. The total number of days increased from 127 days to 157 days. The ratification was moved by Director Greenwich, seconded by Director Scruggs, and adopted with the changes. Resolution R012-2026, ratification of change order number 4 for contract 30246, restoration of gravity flow sanitary sewer mains by point repair at various sites throughout Orleans Parish between Swibno and Wallace C. Drennan LLC. Resolution R035-2026, ratification of change order number 6 for contract 30254, Carrollton Basin number 13, sewer rehabilitation between Swibno and BLD Services, LLC. Resolution R036-2026, ratification of change order number 7 for contract 30255, Carrollton Basin number 14, sewer rehabilitation between Swibno and Fleming Construction Company, LLC. Resolution R037-2026, ratification of change order number 6 for contract 30256, Carrollton Basin number 15, sewer rehabilitation between Swibno and Hard Rock Construction, LLC. Resolution R038-2026, ratification of change order number 8 for contract 30260, Carrollton Basin number 19, sewer rehabilitation between Swibno and Hard Rock Construction, LLC. And Resolution R039-2026, ratification of change order number 3 for contract 30261, Carrollton Basin number 20, sewer rehabilitation between Swibno and Hard Rock Construction, LLC. These ratifications were moved by Director Greenwich, seconded by Director Pacho, and carried. There were information items available to committee members, no public comment. Being no further business to come before Finance Administration Committee, there's a motion to adjourn. It was accepted. The meeting was adjourned at approximately 9:57 a.m. And next committee, I'm sorry. Yes, and so being read and Finance Committee report being presented, do we have a motion to approve the Finance Committee report from April 8th, 2026?
So moved.
Moved by Director Thomas,
Second.
second by Director Antrim. Gotta say it. All right, any questions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed, any abstentions? None? All right, the motion carries. We've accepted the Finance and Administration Committee report. Next, we'll have Director Scruggs will present the April 8th, 2026 Governance Committee report.
All right, the Governance Committee met on Wednesday, April 8th, 2026, in the Executive Boardroom. The meeting was convened at approximately 10:05. Members present, myself as Chair, Director H. Davis Cole as Vice Chair, Director Kennedy, Director Thomas, members absent, Director Greenwich, non-members present, Director Greenwich and Director Pacho. All right, so our first presentation item was the 2026 legislative session presented by our Chief of Staff, Jamie Parker. Ms. Parker shared updates on the 2026 legislative session, including House Bill 441, Civil Service, House Bill 573, Governance, House Bill 893, Procurement, which have been referred to the House Committee on Municipal, Parochial, and Cultural Affairs. An update was also shared on Senate Bill 228, Constitutional Amendment, and Senate Bill 268, Statute, which relate to the Utilities-Led Service Line Program. Ms. Parker shared that while Senate Bill 228 failed to pass the Senate, the utilities lobbyist is working to ensure that all lawmakers are properly informed about the bill's scope, and the utility is concurrently pursuing a favorable opinion from the Attorney General's office, which would remove the need for a constitutional amendment. Executive Director Randy Heyman discussed Senate Bill 469, which relates to the notification requirements for underground utilities. Mr. Heyman shared that the bill is projected to increase costs to the utility based on a demand for increased manpower. Staff advised that Swibno's lobbyist was notified of the utility's concerns regarding the bill and requests that those concerns be shared with appropriate lawmakers. The committee also discussed HB 573 in its original form, for the record, and the committee's letter in response to the bill. Staff advised that the letter was shared with the chair of the House Municipal, Parochial, and Cultural Affairs Committee, the city's administration, and Representative Hilferty, the bill's author. The letter was also included as an information item in the committee packet. Discussion items. I presented a motion to add discussion item evaluation process for executive leadership to the agenda. Director Thomas moved, Director Kennedy seconded, and that was added by unanimous vote. 2026 Board of Directors retreat. Discussion was raised to obtain feedback from committee members and leadership on the board retreat. Mr. Heyman stated that the content shared during the retreat was informative and noted that future retreats on learning opportunities for directors could be scheduled. Directors agreed and noted that future discussions on discrete topics such as communications and building public trust could be beneficial. Other key takeaways were noted in the areas of infrastructure risk and system vulnerability, capital strategy and financial constraints, and reactive versus proactive operations. Item B, evaluation process for executive leadership. The committee discussed the ongoing development of an executive performance review process for leadership positions that are appointed by the board. The committee agreed that the process should include goal setting, key performance indicators, and alignment, a mid-year check-in, and a year-end evaluation. The committee agreed that the next step would be the development of goals and KPIs for executive director, interim special counsel, and interim general superintendent. We then moved to executive session. I presented a motion to do so. Director Thomas moved, Director Kennedy seconded, the motion carried. That executive session was pursuant to RS 4219, 4217A1. And we entered in executive session to discuss the appointment of the special counsel of Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans, and also the appointment of general superintendent of Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans. Then I, as chair, presented a motion to enter executive session. I think this is to end executive session, okay? Note that for the record. Director Cole moved, Director Kennedy seconded, the motion carried. There were no additional information items, no public comment, and then there being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 11:40. Director Cole moved, Director Kennedy seconded, motion carried. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for that committee report, Director Scruggs. May we have a motion to approve the Governance Committee report for April 8th, 2026? Moved by Director Cole, second by Director Thomas. Any questions?
Quick note
Yes,
of the amendments that we made during
the changes.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, do we have to,
the
with
necessary
changes,
changes.
with the necessary changes? So, I'll do that again, just to cover us, just in case, right? May we have a motion to approve the April 8th, 2026 Governance Committee report with the changes, please? Moved by Director Cole. Second by Director Thomas. Any questions? Additional questions? All in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed, any abstentions? None. Motion carries. We've accepted the Governance Committee report. Thank you very much. Next, Director Scruggs will provide the April 20th, 2026 Special Governance Committee report.
We're gonna defer that.
You want to defer? Okay, all right. May we have a motion to defer the April 2026 Special Governance Committee report?
So moved.
Moved by Director Pacho. Second by Director Cole. Any questions about that? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed, any abstentions? All right, motion carries. We will defer that report. Next, I will present the March 31st, 2026 Pension Committee report. The Pension Committee met on March 31st, 2026 here in the Carrollton Plant Auditorium. The meeting convened at approximately 9:01 a.m. Present were myself, Director Pacho, Trustee Rebecca Johnsey, Trustee Jackie Shine, Trustee Mubashir Makbul. Absent were Trustee Joseph, Director Antrim, Director Thomas. There was a presentation item, investment manager searches for select infrastructure asset class. This was facilitated by our investment consultant, Marquette and Associates. by their associate, Alberto Rivera. Alberto Rivera introduced to the committee 3 managers for SWIBNO's infrastructure asset class for consideration. Investment representatives were from the following companies. For Brookfield, we had Garrett Roshenko and Matt Press. For IFM, we had Gary Harrison and Ian Pearson. And for Macquarie, we had Matt Bolger, Paul Ames, and Elias Alcantara. There were information items presented by all 3 managers for the committee to review. There was no public comment, and being no further business on that day before the pension committee, that meeting was adjourned at approximately 11:13 a.m. Can we do these together or have to do it separate to enter?
Separate.
Okay, thank you. May we have a motion to approve the March 31st, 2026 pension committee meeting?
So
Moved by Director Scruggs,
second.
second by Director Greenwich. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you. We've approved the March 31st pension committee meeting, and we have another. The pension committee met on April 8th, 2026 in the executive boardroom. This meeting convened at approximately 11:47 a.m. Present were myself, Director Pacho, Director Thomas, Trustee Joseph, Trustee Macbull. Absent were Director Antrim, Trustee Johnsey, and Trustee Shine. Presentation item, February 26, 2026 Executive Summary, Investment Report for the Employees Retirement System of SWIBNO, Kwaku Obed of Marquette and Associates. The executive summary presentation began with an overview of market trends for March 2026. Kwaku Obed described how escalations in the Middle East are impacting market stability. However, given the utility's broader portfolio, there appears to be good diversity based on asset allocation. Committee members sought to reaffirm SWIBNO's defensive position under market instability and whether there is a clear direction on where the market is heading. Further discussion emphasized the types of market, those with consumer discretionary spending versus those that are utility investments. In conclusion, Mr. Obed suggested to the committee that a cushioned approach that yields a favorable average with a 10-year return of approximately 9% is the goal. The next phase for SWIBNO Investments is to review private real estate market managers. Under Part B, the supplemental education for infrastructure asset class, also by Kwaku Obed of Marquette and Associates. An infrastructure asset class was defined as physical assets necessary to operate a society and sustain economic, industrial, and social growth. The utility's investment strategy for infrastructure was considered stable and predictable based on regulatory oversight. The committee made a comparison of European and U.S. markets. During this discussion, the U.S. infrastructure market promoted a broader opportunity, while big infrastructure dynamics are present in Europe. And lastly, C, an update on new manager onboarding and asset allocation transition plan, also with Kwaku Obed and Marquette and Associates. An update was given to the committee on the unsigned managers, GQG, Misro/MetLife, and TS&W, and asset allocation transition. Changes to the existing asset class included a decrease in total fixed income, hedge funds, and real estates. Increased allocations of assets were made to total U.S. equity, non-U.S. equity, and total illiquid assets. Committee members raised concern based on the 1-year timeline for the utility securing manager contracts. Mr. Obed considered the process timeline to be reasonable. Manager recommendations from manager interviews that took place on March 31st, 2026 will be delivered to the committee once completed. There were additional information items received by the committee, and being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at approximately 12:28 p.m. May we have a motion to approve the April 8th pension committee meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Director Scruggs.
Second.
Second by Director Greenwich. Any questions about that? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Any abstentions? Any objections? None? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have committee report, the plumbing committee report. Director Cole will provide the April 8th, 2026 plumbing committee report.
All right, thank you. The Plumbing Committee met on April 8th, 2026 in the Executive Boardroom meeting convened at approximately 12:33 p.m. Present were myself as chair, Director Pacho as vice chair, Michael Adams, Christopher Bergeron, Ann Wilson, Renell Brown. Absent was Caitlin Timmerick. We moved on to an action item, which was Resolution R 064, 2026, amending sections 14 and 16 of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans Plumbing Code relative to cross-connection control and stormwater. Mr. Corwin Washington and Ms. Nine Hendrickson presented on the proposed amendments to sections 14 and 16 of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans Plumbing Code. Mr. Bergeron expressed that the suggested changes to section 16 will help with enforcing regulations and fines based on canal cleanup. Director Cole presented a motion to approve Resolution R 064-2026. Director Pacho moved, Mr. Bergeron seconded, and the motion carried. There was one informational item provided, which was the plumbing code sections 14 and 16, which had redlined the proposed changes or the changes, enacted changes. There was no public comment. With there being no further business to come before the Plumbing Committee, Director Cole made a motion to adjourn. Ann Wilson moved. Director Pacho seconded. The motion carried. The meeting was adjourned at approximately 12:47 p.m.
All right. Thank you for that. May we have a motion to approve the April 8th, 2026 plumbing committee report? Moved by Director Thomas.
Second.
Second by Director Greenwich. Any questions? None?
This is an
Yes.
action item we can question later on.
I'm sorry?
This is an action item with, this handout, we can ask the questions later as well, right?
Are you
On
talking
the
about his,
plug-
the
yes.
report or some questions about something else?
Well, the report, I just had some questions about what occurred during that meeting, but it seems like it's gonna be relative to the action item today, correct?
I mean, yes,
Okay.
but I would also say if you're not sure, you can ask the question just so you don't miss the opportunity.
Okay. The canal cleanup with regards to the public stormwater drain system, because that's why I was looking at this handout, I had questions with that.
Right.
So in that meeting, can you kind of give us a little bit more background on how that's connected as far as we have limits on here, and I just want to make sure the
Oh, right.
the wastewater limits are defined in other language somewhere, because I saw a recommendation was to delete it.
Yes, so what happens is there are discharge limits currently in the code for stormwater. We don't have a way of treating stormwater, so having those limits is really kind of, it's superfluous, really. Wastewater is governed completely separately. That's from the Department of Environmental Quality from the state. They establish those limits, and then our treatment plants are required to meet those limits.
So these limits are still in some language somewhere else, is that?
Not for stormwater, but for wastewater.
For wastewater, that's what I mean,
Yes,
okay.
it's a state.
And then the last thing, are there any occurrences that were discussed that a wastewater event can go into the stormwater and then the limits?
That's also governed by the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality.
Okay.
Anytime there's a force main break, there's required reporting, estimating of the quantities, et cetera, and then, they oversee oversee the remediation of that.
Okay, just deleting the whole language when I saw it.
Yeah, this is just for just plumbing code for,
Okay.
individuals and businesses. It really doesn't pertain to us as a utility meeting our requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Just, you'll be back. All right. Thank you. All right. We had our motion to approve. We had, any other questions? Great. Any opposed, any abstentions? All right. Motion carries. We've accepted the plumbing report for April 8th. I'm sorry. I thought yeah. We did, right? Yeah, I thought. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, though.
Okay.
All right. With that said, motion carries. We've accepted the April 8th, 2026 Plumbing Committee report. And that's it for our committee reports. Next, we have discussion items. The first up, I'm sorry.
Voted on
I'm sorry.
Did-
We did. We'll do it again, just in case. All right, let's start off. May I want to go all the way over. I want to make sure may we have a motion to approve the April 8th Plumbing Committee report?
So moved.
Moved by Director Greenwich,
Second.
second by Director Antrim. Any additional questions?
Just to note that since we're redoing the motion, that we capture Director Green's question in this one too, without her having to restate her question.
Thank you for that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed, any abstentions? None. Now we've definitely accepted the April 8th Plumbing Committee report. Thank you. And that concludes our committee reports for today, and next we'll begin our discussion items. First up is House Bill 573, Substitute House Bill 1243. And is that?
Okay, that's correct. Good morning, I'm Interim Special Counsel Darrell Harrison. You may recall that we had did a presentation regarding House Bill 573 that has now been turned into a substitute bill, which is 1243. And this morning I have with me Deputy Special Counsel Mary Arsenault and Assistant Special Counsel Darren Levi Baquet, who will present regarding 573 as well as 1243.
Thank you. I'm going to give a brief introduction, and then Karen is going to walk us through the specifics on this legislation. You can see exactly how it would change. House Bill 573 was introduced, considered by the House Committee, heavily amended, and emerged from the House Committee as a substitute bill, which is now House Bill 1243 that Theron will go through. What that bill does, as you know, current law provides that the water, sewage, and drainage systems of the city shall be controlled, constructed, and maintained by a sewage and water board composed of people listed in the statute. This bill separates out those elements. Karen's going to walk us through it, but it provides that the utility systems are a state entity governed by a sewage and water board that may be provided in the Home Rule Charter, which does have provisions for essentially the board as it's constructed now, with one slight difference, with rules and regulations, including the operational matters to be provided by City Council ordinance. Those provisions, that's a nutshell of the effect of the bill, and Theron is going to walk us through the specific changes that get us to that result.
Thank you, Mary Beth. My name is Theron Levi Baquet, Assistant Special Counsel here at the Sewage and Water Board. As Mary Beth mentioned, this will just be an informational presentation about the effect of what was House Bill 573, which, as the Special Counsel mentioned, has been substituted as House Bill 1243. In general, the bill aims to tweak, amend, somewhat change various provisions of the board's enabling legislation. So in a nutshell, the first statute that's affected would be Title 33, subsection 4071, which speaks to the creation and organization of the Sewage and Water Board. At present, and we'll see a little bit more about the specific changes, the board is established, vacancies are filled by appointments made through a blue ribbon committee. That would all be done away with House Bill 1243. As Mary Beth also mentioned, the systems, the public water, sewage, and drainage systems would become an explicit state entity. And the statute would clarify or specify that these are not part of the city of New Orleans. The Home Rule Charter provision Mary Beth mentioned earlier also. So the statute, of course, speaks to establishing the board, filling vacancies, and how that's done. It would do away with that and allow that to be set by ordinance. Of course, an ordinance would have to be put forth by the city council to lay out how the board is composed. But at present, there is a Home Rule Charter provision, that's section 5301, that kind of memorializes the current composition of the Sewage and Water Board. So if or when this bill passes and that system for selecting board members goes away, the current structure of the board would remain in the Home Rule Charter. Interestingly, it doesn't specify that the mayor is the ex officio president of the board, but it does provide that the mayor is a member of the board. We'll go through some of those changes you can see. So 4071 at present establishes the board's legal authority over the water system, the sewage system, and the drainage system. Of course, as I mentioned, talks about the composition of the board of directors and the selection committee process for filling those vacancies. It does set requirements that all members of the board be citizens of the city of Orleans Parish, rather, domiciled here for at least 2 years prior to appointment to the board. And it prohibits appointment of any person who has some interest in any sewage or waterworks company or any public office that yields a benefit in that area. Under the proposed law, again, it would state that the water systems are a separate entity, separate and apart from the city of New Orleans. It would remove that composition of the board and allow the composition to be set forth in the charter. It gives the city council the authority to prescribe rules and regulations for the appointment, term, and service of board members. And it would grant the council authority to make rules governing the meetings and procedures of the board in the future. This next,
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. So there would no longer be a prohibition on anybody having some type of interest in, so anyone with a specific interest under the proposed law can sit on the board?
well, so it would remove that requirement from statute. The city council could, of course, pass an ordinance that reestablishes it. But currently, that prohibition does exist in state law, and that state law would be removed under this House bill. This is just intended to give you kind of an illustration of what the statute would look like going forward. The bolded, underlined portions would be additions and replacements to state law. The next provision is Title 33-4072. This statute does a few things. Requires the various public works authorities in the area. These are, off the top of my head, the Department of Transportation and Development, Public Works Departments of our neighboring parishes, Jefferson, St. Bernard, to meet quarterly to coordinate and work on regional flood prevention, the Southeast Louisiana Urban Flood Prevention Program, SELA. The first change would be to add the city's Department of Public Works Director to that committee. The executive director of the Sewage and Water Board is also currently a member, required to be a member, and that would remain. This statute codifies the board's legal authority for all drainage operations in the city of New Orleans, so assigning responsibility for all drainage works to the board. The statute, House bill, proposes to kind of open the door for another entity to take some of that authority. And it does tweak the city's statutory obligation to transfer all drainage employees and equipment to Sewage and Water Board. So after the drainage consolidation, the law was changed to give the board responsibility for all drainage in New Orleans Parish. This would kind of qualify that language, saying that unless this is done by another entity, then the board is responsible for all drainage. And it changes the obligation to transfer the employees and equipment, which came out of that drainage consolidation effort. It changes the shall to a may, so it kind of gives the city more discretion. The last change here current law requires the city of New Orleans to annually appropriate for drainage the same level of funding that was used by the city's Department of Public Works in fiscal year 2023. This is another statute that came out of that drainage consolidation. The proposed law would qualify the city's responsibility to do so. It ostensibly reduces the city's funding requirement by the degree to which drainage operations are maintained by a public entity. It also establishes that the definition of public entity as used in this statute has the same meaning as provided in Title 39. Another illustration of what the proposed language would look like. Moving to subsection 4073, this provision simply names at present the mayor as the ex officio president of the board, and it authorizes the election of a president pro tem and executive director. The proposed law would remove the mayor as ex officio president and allow a president and president pro tem to be elected from the membership of the board. An additional change, which we'll go through here, So at present, 4074 requires meetings of the board to be held in accordance with rules adopted by the board and open to the public. It also requires transactions to be recorded in the minutes, kept by the executive director, and all of those records must be public. This change simply makes the open meetings law more applicable to every meeting of the board of directors. It explicitly requires compliance with the Louisiana Open Meetings Law. It would also allow the city council to make rules governing the meetings of the board. So any procedures that the board set for operation or its meetings would have to conform potentially with ordinances issued by the city council. And it removes the statutory language requiring 6 members of the board to constitute a quorum. Next, we have Title 33, 4123, excuse me. This authorizes the board to make reasonable rules and regulations for administration of the sewer system. And this change would also subject that authority to ordinance from the city council. Then we have maybe one of the larger changes here. So at present, Title 4159 was the statute that authorizes the city council to establish by ordinance procedures for billing policies. This was recently done in relation to bill issues from the Sewage and Water Board. It gave the city council the authority to pass ordinances that require the board to reduce or modify a bill received by a customer waiving late charges or interest. The proposed law would eliminate the billing ordinance review working group. It replaces that with authorization for the city council to exercise authority, regulatory, and oversight over the board, absent any law to the contrary. So this authority would include the ability to regulate and require council approval of board action in several specified areas, which you'll see here. But it also leaves the door open to giving the council oversight and regulatory authority over areas not specified explicitly in law. We know that that authority would apply to rates, fees, and charges imposed by the board, annual operating budgets, implementation of capital budgets, capital improvement programs, board policies on billing, finance, operations, governance, including bill modification, again, waiving interest or late charges. It would give the council oversight and regulatory authority over board contracts, and the election of the executive director and hiring of employees. Again, an illustration of what that change would look like. Again, you'll notice there are specified areas that the council would have this authority over, and it leaves the door open with including but not limited to language.
In that last slide, did it say the election or the selection of the executive director?
It does say election of the executive director. The statute seeks to allow the executive director to be elected by the board of directors, so.
Does that seem to contemplate that a director could be the executive director?
I don't want to speculate. It doesn't distinguish,
Strange.
In this version, 573, this is kind of a change since that original version. It does limit the city council's power to not conflict with any existing law. So there are some guardrails there. Any existing law to the contrary, the city council obviously can't exceed that authority. The remainder of 4159, subsections B and C, currently authorize the city council to, again, establish that billing ordinance review working group. But the changed reference, again, limits the council's authority insofar as any of these changes are deemed to delegate powers held exclusively by the legislature. So the city council can exercise where the legislature has authority to do so, or be inconsistent with applicable state law, impair any existing obligation of the board. Currently, the law authorizes the council to open an investigation of the board after any catastrophic failure of the sewage or drainage systems. The proposed law expands that authority. It allows the council to open an investigation into any matter within the scope of the council's regulatory authority over the board. Current law authorizes council to request attendance of a board representative at meetings of the Public Works, Sanitation, or Environment committees And the proposed law expands that ability so the council can request attendance of a board representative at any meeting of the council itself or a committee of the council. Again, an illustration here. And lastly, wanted to kind of give you guys a status update about where the bill is presently. A bit of a civics lesson. You'll see at the top, and I'll go through this a little bit more in a couple of following slides. But there's a first reading, which is the introduction on the House floor, a second reading where it's referred to committee, a committee hearing, a committee report, and then it is placed on the calendar for a third reading to the full body, in this case, the House. We are at the committee report stage, and the bill is actually past that, so it's somewhere between committee report and being placed on the calendar. Yeah, so it's on the floor. The change from House Bill 573 to 1243 happened at this stage. So once we have a schedule, or date scheduled for when it will be heard on the House floor, we'll be at the step before final passage in the House of Representatives. Kind of an illustration of where we are. Of course, on April 15th, the bill was discussed in the House Committee on Municipal, Parochial, and Cultural Affairs. It was reported favorably out of that committee unanimously by 14-0 vote. And the committee report was issued on April 16th. At this stage, the bill became House Bill 1243. It will be scheduled for a reading or third reading debate on the House floor soon, where then there will be a vote on final passage. It's a virtually identical process in the Senate. So once the bill, or if and when the bill passes out of the House, it would go through the same process in the Senate. And there are a few kind of ways that this can go. So if the bill passes both the House and Senate chambers without amendment, it would then go to the governor for signature or a veto. By the Constitution of Louisiana, there's an effective date unless otherwise specified in the act that these bills take effect on August 1st of the year that they're passed out of the legislature. So if it does go to the governor for signature or veto and he takes no action, that would be the effective date. If he does sign it, the effective date would still be August 1st, unless the bill specifies a different date. If the bill passes the House and Senate chambers with amendments, and the House concurs with those amendments directly, then again, it goes to the governor for signature or veto. And if House Bill 1243 passes both chambers, the House and the Senate, with amendments, but the House rejects those amendments from the Senate, it would be sent to a conference committee. The conference committee would compromise, reach agreement, and file a report memorializing that. The House and Senate full bodies must concur with that report and the compromise made in the committee, and ultimately it would be sent to the governor for signature or veto. Small notes at the end of session or sign die is June 1st, 2026. And again, that constitutional effective date is August 1st, unless otherwise specified. At present, there's no other effective date of the bill. Thank you.
That's it. That concludes the report from the Office of Special Counsel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Oh, just one more. It did say that it could reduce the amount of directors needing to be present for quorum, correct?
That's correct. We anticipate that that is more of a flexibility measure depending on, if the amount of directors on the board is increased or decreased. It doesn't tie that or state specifically that 6 members have to be a quorum. It allows it to float, I think, with the membership of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
again, I'll ask the question I asked at the Governance Committee. From your interpretation, does this impact in any way the Water Board's pension plan and employees?
Well, that's not a question we're prepared to answer, because we're still doing some research on it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I noted in a question. So the governance committee did receive this presentation on Monday. We had a meeting. I think those minutes are still being prepared, but there were quite a few, I think 20+ questions that were put on the floor, and we had representation from the mayor's office who was there to give us some insight on their thoughts, whether it's specific responses or directional responses. Also, Councilmember Hughes was there and to speak or could speak on behalf of the city council. So I just want to note that for the record that we did do some diligence on this, and there was quite a few questions and then some questions left unanswered and unasked. I think that we just kind of ran out of time. So my main question for today is, I know we've talked about the three-headed governance structure for this utility. And I think, and maybe I speak too far to say that no one thinks that that's the best idea, that maybe it adds some confusion for all parties involved. When we look at the structure that's proposed, are we eliminating the three heads? Are we simplifying? What are we doing with all that has been placed in this substitute bill? How are we shifting that three-head governance structure?
There's a question for me. I don't think the measure clearly eliminates the three-headed governing structure. It doesn't give the city council obviously more authority. And one of the interesting things about this, when we discuss this with the House 573 version, is we really don't know exactly what the bill can do. All of this allows the city council to pass ordinances that can affect operations or administration of the board. But until those ordinances are passed, we really don't know. It still keeps the state's role as the creator and kind of direct, allowing it to govern the board's actions through statute. It kind of gives the city council more authority to do so, but then some powers are still reserved to the board of directors. So speaking to, I think, the three masters problem, I don't think it's done away with by this bill.
Okay, thank you.
Does it also task the city council with raising funds for the utility as well? Because I saw the regulatory piece, but the raising of funds, because a lot of the issues tend to be financial issues with things breaking and, but are they tasked with raising funds as well?
So there's no explicit requirement that they raise funds. It would, of course, give them the ability to, in theory, if they wanted to pass an ordinance in that regulatory area. But the bill, as written, doesn't require them to produce any kind of funding for the board.
It also does not amend the rate-setting statutes. There are probably 25 statutes that are not touched by this bill. And some of those are the ones that provide separately for different rate structures, rate authorizations. I think those, again, we're working with bond counsel, but I think those are going to be tied to certain bond issuances. But it does, as Theron said, give regulatory authority and oversight over the board to the council. It includes, but not limited to, and this is in the materials that you have, authority to require city council approval of rates, fees, and charges, the annual operating budgets, creation, adoption, and implementation of capital budgets and capital improvement plans, board policies related to billing, finance, et cetera, contracts entered into by the board, the election, what was your question, of the executive director, and the hiring of board employees. It still kind of retains the structure of the board because it says that the systems themselves shall become a state entity under the operation, maintenance, and control of a sewage and water board, as may be provided in the home rule charter, which does provide a structure that's almost identical to what we have now. The difference there is the chair of the Public Works Committee versus the president of the council.
So I have two quick questions related to that. So the first being this clear statement that it's a state entity. Is that practically a change from the current structure?
Yes, because this bill says that the systems are a state, well, actually, it's got a grammatical mistake. It says the systems is a state entity.
Okay. but
Controlled,
what are they
maintained, and
now?
operated by a sewage and water board. And right now, the statute says,
Because we're a political subdivision of the state, they belong to the political subdivision rather than to the state? Is that?
That's pretty much the assessment, sure.
Okay.
Well, they don't really belong. That may be a question.
Yeah, I think
That may be a
it would be
question.
helpful to understand obviously you all can't determine what the purpose of that necessarily is without more insight from the author, but I think understanding some more analysis on what is that currently and what would that do in terms of change. And I think the second related to the Home Rule Charter. So the bill is giving the city council authority to pass an ordinance that would change the composition of the board. But the Home Rule Charter currently has the existing composition in it, which would require a vote of the people to change, right?
That's correct.
And so the council couldn't pass an ordinance to change the composition of the board until they rescind that section from the Home Rule Charter through a vote of the people, correct?
Correct.
What the bill says is the city council may by ordinance prescribe rules and regulations governing the appointment, terms, and service of board members.
Right.
And Home Rule Charter says how the board's organized.
So it just would change, it would do away with the selection committee and leave it up to the city council to decide how people would get on the board. But the composition of the board would remain the same, according to the Home Rule Charter,
That's right.
unless they seek a charter amendment.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
To your first question, I think we all understand ourselves legally to be a local political subdivision of the state of Louisiana, created by the Louisiana legislature in 1899. It's possible that this bill seeks to maybe explicitly put that in statute. I think as written, it doesn't do a great job of it.
I have two questions. So, currently as a board, we have special counsel, GSO and executive director. So now with this law saying that is hiring of all employees, like all of them? Because currently, like, that's not something that's in our purview. But I just want to make sure when I saw that language, that means every employee.
Well, interesting is the appointment of special counsel and general superintendent are provided for in statute. This bill doesn't seek to amend any of those. It does say executive director and employees, but I think that would operate as that existing law that it wouldn't be able to change.
Okay, so yes to all employees, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to simplify it in my head. Yes to all employees or no to all employees?
I think very legal answer, depends on how you define employees.
Okay.
I think maybe appointees might be a distinction, so GSO or special counsel might be an appointee, not an employee.
And then we have to take in consideration civil service rules too, so it's a very, if you say all employees, that gets a little.
Right, and that's,
Yeah, right, because there are some civil service
I'm not a
rules.
lawyer, so that's why I'm asking the
And
question.
statutory interpretation says if there's a more specific, on the one hand, if there's a more specific provision that governs something, the more specific rule prevails over the more general one, but then the expression of legislative will, and what does that mean? And we're just presenting the proposal.
Right.
We're just telling you what's before the legislature right now.
And then the last question is, as lawyers, is this something that's common, like the may, kind of the ambiguity in the language? I know that, I've just heard that it's, the intention is for it to be a tool, but is this common practice to have something say may a lot or kind of be open until the ordinance come? I'm just curious.
On our,
No, go right ahead, but I think that's a very common, I think your perception of that is very common, yeah. The mayors and the shells, until you kind of see the full bill, because right now it's fluid. I mean, you had 573, now we're at 1243. Who knows what it looks like at the very end?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm gonna wait for the committee report, but did you all do a deep dive on that drainage piece that was discussed in there?
So there were some questions. For the record, it's the meeting's recorded, it's on YouTube, right? So you don't have to wait for the minutes, you can go watch it. All the questions and answers are there that were presented, but we did talk a bit about that. And I don't wanna misrepresent the discussion. I think there are more questions related to that and several other things that we just didn't get a chance to get into. And I don't know if Adam was there, if he is the person to answer all of those questions. I don't know, like, we didn't coordinate it in that way. I had a question though for our legal team, and this is a high level question. When it comes to, when I try to understand the shift that's happening from a 30,000 foot level, it sounds like there is a shift of authority to city council. But the corresponding responsibility for operation of the utility, the legal liability, the funding liability, or funding requirements and the like, stay with the utility. And the utility is not associated in any legal way with the city. Is that correct?
that's my initiation.
Okay.
Well, they're different.
The systems remain a state entity under the governance of the board.
Okay.
And then the statute lists what the council ordinances can prescribe.
Correct, okay.
Darrell, the other two questions that I don't think we got a definitive answer. One, does this impact our bond rating? And two, does it impact the Swindle's chance to borrow funds?
And those are questions that we are consistently and constantly researching, because they're complex questions with complex answers.
I can offer that during the, again, watch the recording, but my recollection, representation yesterday was, that's not the intent. It's certainly not the intent. So, there was no definitive, I think, response to say it will or will not, and I think any type of definitive response probably wouldn't be, accurate, because the people in the room don't control the ratings, right? I would say, though, to the degree we can, inquire with a rating authority, maybe we should, and see what their opinion might be. I don't know, pro temp, if that's something that we can formally request, but I think given the magnitude of the shift, right, and the importance of being able to secure funding at an affordable way, and the importance of having funding for the infrastructure that we need, we probably need to very much understand what the structure could do in that regard, and we need to hear it from a credible source.
A question around, I think that we have had ample discussion around what's at stake as it relates to the shift or the relationship between council and the board. But the intent was stated by Adam representing the city last meeting, that the purpose of this was to shift from the state. And so I want to hear a little more, if we can, about how our current relationship with the state is impacted. We already established that this does not eliminate or consolidate our three governing structures, but what elements of state responsibility or ability, right, under this bill, in its current form, would shift to the council to have more, as they say, the intent was to have more local control. Does this happen?
Certainly something we can continue to research, and we'll watch as the bill develops. I will say that I think the overall structure of the bill is seeking to allow the council to make these changes locally without having to do so in state law at the legislature, annually.
Just kind of follow on with that. My appreciation of it is, yes, it does that. It allows the things we would ordinarily have to go to the state to ask for or get in statute could be done at the local level. With the idea being that would be a more efficient and more localized sort of process. But the state still, as the owner of the utility, still retains the ability to override that by passing something contrary to what the city council.
Right now, the most, maybe the most clear exposition of what our authority is from this Supreme Court decision called Roberts. It goes through for a couple of pages of what it means for the Sewage and Water Board to be deemed a local political subdivision of the state. The Supreme Court said that we are a semi-autonomous local political subdivision of the state of Louisiana, and that's what all that list of statutes that are, some are being amended, some are not, confer on the Sewage and Water Board certain responsibilities and authorities. The city does not have that at this point over the Sewage and Water Board, except by virtue of this amendment to the charter and the statutes for that with respect to billing. There's been a lot of interaction and approval, obviously approval of rates. So that's what's being changed. We have not, I don't think the Sewage and Water Board has sought significant changes to state statute. I don't think the issue of state legislative access has been for the board. But that's a historical question. We'd have to research that.
Historically, it's kind of been from top down. We haven't gone asking.
Right.
have one question as it relates to the regulation and requirement of council approval for contracts entered by the board. Does that mean any contract from Solution Water Board has to go to council? And then what happens in an emergency situation when council is not in session or can't necessarily meet in this emergency?
Good question.
Well, I mean, you know, with for example, for the emergency, there's a statute in place that allows the executive director to act in emergencies.
Okay.
So that would not be, you know, but I understand the broad language being used there, and it certainly sounds that way.
It would, and it's ordinance authority for the
Right.
city for what they want. Now, whether that would change what your agenda today looked like, for example, we don't know.
It sounds like it would almost make us a committee of the city council
Yes.
that would, so then we would approve contracts and then it would have to wait for the next council meeting for them to approve it and then come back to us.
To be provided by ordinance. Depends on what the ordinance would say.
It depends on
If
what
they
the
pass an
ordinance.
ordinance saying it
Right.
has to do
Yeah.
that, right?
But I mean, the ordinance is very fluid. I
Sure.
mean, we're talking about where it is now and what it might look like at the end of the day. And then you also have to take into account what kind of ordinances that could come out of it. So it's all just kind of fluid in that regard.
Just really quickly, there's the other bill that would provide for a constitutional amendment to move public utilities in Orleans Parish under the Public Service Commission, right? What happens if both pass?
That's a good question.
Which one, would that just add a fourth head that we have to serve? That we'd have to go to the PSC in addition to the city
And it
council?
gets very legalistic, because
Right, very good
what
question.
the
Okay.
scope of the
We don't
PSC
know.
regulation is
Okay.
now, and it doesn't include public.
So, quick question. I have a statement from the meeting, and then a request, and then another question. So, Adam did mention yesterday when we asked a lot of these execution questions, including your question, Director Stewart, about how does this change in emergency? Because we were referencing industrial canal, how would that situation have changed if we were under this new contemplated reform structure? And he did say nothing would change unless there was an ordinance put in place. And in quite a few questions, that was the answer, is that it's just dependent upon whatever, depends on the ordinance. If there was an ordinance that's to that particular situation or has an impact on that process, then that's when it would shift. We just, depending on the ordinance that came out. So I just want to put that on the table, that I think the overarching theme is, it depends on the ordinance. That's one. Two, when it comes to ordinances, I don't know, if you all prepared to talk about the process of passing an ordinance with city council and in particular public participation in that process. If you can speak to it, that'd be helpful. And then the last thing, I'll make my request and then maybe go back to you for your question. My request is, can we have, or request with the mayor, the city council, whomever, an opportunity that's specifically for raising these questions and getting these answers. I think governance had questions, we tried to get through them, but we had other business to take care of, just like today, we have other business to take care of. But my understanding outside of governance committee meeting and our request for mayor presence or mayor's office presence, and this conversation, we have not had an opportunity to digest, especially the substitute bill 1243. And I think it's of such an impact, right, that we have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to do our diligence and to engage with those who are, have good intentions, right, for how this is gonna go, and maybe work together to make sure this is something that works for everybody. Yeah. And so that question then goes to council, I guess.
Yeah, about participation in the ordinance.
The ordinance process, yeah.
We can certainly look into it and provide specifics and overview if that's something that the board would like to see. In general, it looks like the process you see publicly for the city council frequently. Measures starting out in a committee, passing committee there, making their way to the full city council. That generally is an opportunity for public input for the ordinance process. And, after that public input period passes, there's research on the bill, not in that specific order. And then, of course, votes by the full council. Similar to most, I guess, council, president, municipal structures.
Thanks.
I think just a final comment to your point about getting input from the current council on their intent, you know, the current council is only there for 4 years. So the changes that are being proposed, in theory, could last forever.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually not especially useful to understand what their specific intent is, because we would just be at the will of whoever happens to be in those seats in the future. And I think similarly, to what extent the legislature could just yank this back in a couple of years.
I think, and I totally understand your point, Mr. Chair, if I can respond. Totally understand that and agree, that once we put something in place, you know, it assumes a good faith on the folks who are in office, but any of that could change it at any point. But we're always gonna assume good faith. I think my point is that, I think there is there should be an opportunity for meaningful participation in the shaping of this legislation, especially by the fiduciaries who are responsible for the outcome. I did not hear in the change in structure any removal of responsibility from this group for anything. I hear change in authority, but I don't hear change in responsibility. In my view, that's a misalignment. And so assuming good intent, maybe our voices can help raise that and then offer some guardrails that will make this a workable piece of legislation. So the request then is just for meaningful participation in the process.
Thank you for that. I agree.
Yeah, just one last one. Just to kind of recap, and I'm I guess, tell me if what I'm saying is wrong or how it is wrong. If the bill passes tomorrow as shown, practically speaking, nothing changes here, right?
Practically speaking, yeah, we would need further action by the council, passing an ordinance, taking advantage of the authority that it would give them.
So without any ordinance being passed by the city council, nothing would change.
Without any ordinance being passed, generally nothing would change.
Yes.
Some small changes, I think, to board composition would
Okay,
be
right,
affected.
because that's in the home rule charter.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the council wanted to change the makeup of the board, they would have to go to the people and get a charter amendment.
Right.
Okay. If the council wanted to require approval of certain contracts over a certain amount, or all contracts, they would need to pass an ordinance to enact that, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay, and when it comes to selection of board members, right now, it's, there's a process. This eliminates the process, it just puts it to the city council, so they would need to enact an ordinance codifying how selection to this board would go down.
That's correct.
Okay, so, I think that's it. I think I got it. Good.
Sorry, I know we all like one last thing. Just to echo the sentiment of Director Scruggs, I think all of us have good intentions. And I think all of us want to be participants in this process. I think it was several meetings ago, we had, is it Andrew Tuazola come and talk about collaboration, right? So I just want to go back to that, because that's all what I'm about, is making sure that we're all collaborative, all involved in this process. Like, I would love the opportunity of, HB 573 not, creating, a divisive type of manner, but hey, everybody came and said, this is probably some changes that would attack exactly what all of us said needs to be attacked, which is the three-headed governance, just give some more clarification, give some more streamline, as Director Cole said, efficiency, right? So I think that if we all have those goals in mind, we can all collaborate, kudos to all of us, including the city, because the city needs to win. That's just all.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, going. That's good.
Reserving my questions for the next meeting.
That's good. That's good. All right, thank you for that. And we are up to our next discussion item, Water Quality Master Plan Update. Caitlin Timmerick, our interim GSO.
Yeah,
And Chris Bergeron, Chief of Engineering, sorry.
Yeah.
Before you, I believe we have this document, which is the key points and recommendations of the process of the Water Quality Master Plan, which was over a year-long process and taken in conjunction with our team and prepared by our consultant team. So I'll let Chris go over the presentation of those findings and next steps.
Good morning, everyone. As Caitlin said, this was started in 2024. We selected and hired CDM Smith to provide us a water treatment master plan. We kind of renamed it in the middle to Water Quality Master Plan. But this presentation represents about a 1,000-page document that dozens of our staff worked on. It's down to about a 30-page executive summary and then into a even shorter 2-page document for y'all, and then this presentation even shorter. So I apologize if I don't go into the depth of the entire report through this. So the plan overall goes basically through 9 tasks. I won't go into complete depth on all of them, but we went through a few of these. The first 7 ultimately build into the final 2, which is assessment of all of our treatment plants, and then into our alternative discussions, and then the 5 and 30-year CIPs, capital improvement plans. Those are ultimately the final goal of this this plan. You know, we identified a critical system needs, and then came back with the major findings of everything. Again, our goal and mission is to provide reliable water service, and it starts with the water quality of the water that we produce. So the first thing we went through was our goals assessment. So CDM met with our staff to kind of go over each of these items and say, hey, what are our goals? What's the staff trying to do? What we think is most important? You know, obviously the water quality of what we're doing out, providing out of the plant, the water treatment, what are we treating? Are we meeting all of our compliance goals? What potential future compliance might we have to meet? Redundancy has always been a big thing for the Sewage and Water Board, and then the risk mitigation, sustainability and asset management, and how do we grow and provide these things for our customers. Again, I'm not gonna go over every task, but these are the highlights, and all of these are really on the back of a pager. But the major points that we kind of find out about this is kind of things we maybe have suspected or knew internally, but it was good to have a third party come and assess it. For example, there's no need to focus on expanding the treatment plant for future capacity, you know, going over water system demands and capacity that we have. Big statement here for us, current compliance is strong, right? That's a big pride point for us as a utility, that our compliance with what LGH standards is strong. But future risks are in there with LCRI and other potential compliance changes that may come down that we're unaware of right now. With that, there's some assessments and optimizations that we can do internally that CDM has recommended. I know I've presented a couple times on this, the zinc orthophosphate as a potential corrosion control, and a swapping to ACH, aluminum chlorohydrate, that's the coagulation process. Things that could make small changes to the current process that may not impact the quality of it, but can optimize some things. And then we did ask them to go into the saltwater intrusion assessments based on the events a couple years ago. And ultimately, it is really more of that zinc orthophosphate to help corrosion control, to make sure we won't be at risk of exceeding the limits from it. So ultimately, with these first 7 tasks, you get into this idea of, okay, what do we need to do? What is the long-term goal here? And we were presented with 5 alternatives on major improvements to this plant. We're not talking the small things. This is the 30-year big changes, and it ultimately is almost a complete rebuild of the entire treatment process, starting with the sedimentation basins and swapping out what we currently have, which is a traditional sedimentation basin with the plate settlers. You can see we have the ACH polymer added at the beginning of the process, hypochlorite, which is our disinfectant, the contact time, and media filtration and then more contact time after that with the zinc orthophosphate being added to it. So that's ultimately the alternative we selected based on the different treatment technologies presented to us. There was a little bit of tweaking between some of the alternatives on how to accomplish that. And that's ultimately where we get to here, this idea that looking at the treatment plant, we have to go over multiple phases of major construction. This isn't, even saying it's major is probably understating how major of a change this is. Where phase one is on this screen, that's where most of our machine shop, our meter shop, electric shop, warehouses, and other facilities are. It requires us to basically pick those up, move them somewhere else, and then build the first step of the treatment plant there so that we can keep the ship running while that's going on. It's far too risky for us to have to try and build this into what the existing process is. There would be, it's possible, we're not saying it's not possible, but it increases the risk level and possibly over the profile that we're willing to tolerate. And then once that stage is done, then we start talking about phase two, which is building a new filter gallery on top of the existing sedimentation basins that we have, and then some of the new contact basins along the way. And then phase three is just kind of extending out that contact time to what we need, including covering it all. I know that's kind of one of the concerns that's been brought up a few times is whether our current open contact basins. So all of that would be covered. Having it post-filtration makes that covering a lot more tolerable because there won't be any kind of settlement or right now we have some lime that settles in there and has to be dredged out. So what are the next steps with it? The whole plan ultimately boils down to these things, which are launching the corrosion control projects. This has been presented to the committee before. These are additional chemicals. Zinc orthophosphate is an additional cost for the utility that doesn't have a necessarily direct return. In May, their purification will start implementing the zinc orthophosphate in the West Bank, and then later this year on the Carrollton treatment plant side for the East Bank. It takes between 9 to 12 months for this zinc orthophosphate to really take and start coating the pipes and help with that corrosion control. So the sooner we can get that going, the better it is for our customers. Then we're talking about the implementation of the, let's call these the short-term projects, risk-based projects. These are our 5-year capital improvement plan. This was implemented in our 5-year CIP last year. We had this full list of the highest risk projects that came through. CDM had a software that helped us highlight the highest risk and biggest return type projects, and then we helped rank them based on feasibility on how much we could accomplish in a certain year. And then the final one is basically the 30-year. This is the replacement of the whole treatment process. And I said major, you see the costs on here, they're pretty substantial for an estimate. So these are generally upwards of 50% off, maybe more, when you're talking about how low level design we have on this. So we are talking in the range of $1.5 billion to $2 billion over 30 years to replace this treatment plant. And you can't make the first step until you take one, right? It's hard, but this is where we are. The treatment plant has gone well beyond its lifespan, and we're keeping up with it, and our staff here is doing a great job at keeping things going, but this is the next step in our future at this treatment plant. So when you really,
Sorry, real quick, the building replacements that are in the first couple of years, is that relocating the stuff that's over here?
that is relocating those buildings to pave the way for the new sedimentation process.
Like central yard or moving them on site?
We haven't even gotten to that point yet. That's where this next phase of it comes into. And then you got the bar charts here. They look kind of scary when you look at them this way over 5 years. So the blue at the bottom, that's our 5-year CIP. The good news is in state capital outlay this year, they have, or at least the current bill has $9.5 million being moved into priority 2 towards those projects, and then $4.5 million into priority 5. So there is some money that we have available to us at the state level for some of these projects to get started. And then the dark blue at the top, that is the pathway for us to start getting towards the new treatment plant over a 30-year period if we were able to accomplish it that way. It's obviously very aggressive and optimistic to hope to spend $500 million over the next 3 years towards this, but that's what this would look like. My staff right now is researching, and we're actively trying to figure out alternative ways to deliver these projects. Design bid build, which is our normal way of doing things, would be challenging for these types of projects at this scale. So we're researching alternate deliveries between design build, construction management risks. Both are allowed by law and state with some approvals. And there are some other alternatives that we have, but ultimately a lot of it comes down to what can we afford to do and how do we take those next steps. We intend to put out an RFP to start this design process. So by the end of the year, we hope to have a firm selected to help us be started. Maybe a 10% design, or maybe just towards the building relocations and helping us determine where that is. That is my short version of the short plan, of the short executive summary. But I do want to thank, there's a lot of people that helped with this, between Chad Lavoie, the Purification General Superintendent, Alan DeLarge on the West Bank, Tommy Moore was our project manager, Ronvu helped a lot with all the pipe loops. I know I've presented about those a few times. A lot of people have done a lot of work on this, and it's a culmination of a lot.
I'll just add that, this is really does represent the next wave of investment in addition to all of the transmission main work we're talking about, right? So we're just identifying, the need to be continually identifying additional funding sources so we can take care of, the next 20 to 30 years of the future of this utility. So, thank you, Chris, for all of your work. Steve, you helped initiate this process, and so this is exciting. And I think that what we've shown in the past is when we have a plan, we're able to start moving forward with it. We were successful in doing that with the power complex, and I'm really looking forward to us being successful in doing that with this as well.
Questions before? So, I'm sorry, Chris, this is gonna jump out of this is on a different page. This is for conversations that we have with the community, right? Do we have a measure? I think I'm really happy with our water quality, having lived in other cities, right? Do we have a measure? I know we have a measure of success or compliance as it relates to components in the water. Do we have a measure of taste or customer satisfaction? Steve, anyone.
I know we've won taste test contests in the
That-
past.
and I-
If anyone's buying alkaline water, that's a waste of money. Our pH is 8.5. All I drink is sewage and water board.
That's what I want to hear.
I'll just say, in
Yes,
my
that's
water
all.
management course at Tulane, I do a blind taste test every year with my students, and this year's Sewage and Water Board's water won. Even over Fiji water,
Yeah.
so,
Amazing.
yeah,
So
blind taste test.
I asked that because I'm saying this, already from my experience, but I think this is the level of engagement as we kind of need to build some support for this effort.
Yeah.
We need to, be very clear about the great work that's been done that's got us to this point, right? And how we sustain it for the next generation. And then my next question also, out of the box, so to speak. I understand we wanted to cover the galleries, right? How, if any, impact does rainwater impact our process, or does it not? And then, the same thing with evaporation. I just want to kind of, know about the covering, how that is.
Covering is more for security reasons than
Okay.
anything else. It does have minor impacts, but right now, our filtration is post-contact basin, so anything that may fall into it gets filtered out while it is still being disinfected. As soon as you move that filtration to before that contact time, that's why it has to be sealed off.
Got it.
Because you can no longer filter that out and it goes right in the system.
Thank you. I feel smarter. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Any other questions? This is a discussion item. Yeah, Dave.
Just one, and I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure it wasn't in the scope of this report to look at funding mechanisms.
It was.
It was? Okay.
That was actually one of the tasks on there, was looking at what we were already kind of following into, and I got the post report on that, and the recommendations were that our staff is already doing a great job. That sounds like I'm just saying that, but no, they went down the list and were like, okay, you've already gone down that one, you've gone down this, you've gone down this. There's really not that many more options, but that is one of our technical memos that comes into this report.
Okay. So they looked at different ways to finance
Yes.
this $1.2 billion or whatever?
It didn't go into that level of how do you fund this specific project, because it is so dynamic and it's a long-term, but it was more about almost auditing our own process. It's not really auditing, but questioning, what are we doing? Maybe there's an opportunity here, and every time they kind of went down that, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here, it was Patrick, one of our staff members, Patrick Hitchens, going, no, we did that, we've done this, great. Right? It's very, very high praise for Patrick and that group over there.
So where does, I guess this is a question for you, Chad.
Sure.
Where does the responsibility lie for developing a strategy to raise the funding? Is that at the committee level?
Well, that's gonna be, our executive director is gonna lead, all these efforts, and then, he's gonna let us know. I mean, as board members, my understanding is we get the phone calls, we get the interactions with the public, and when you're talking about what I consider generational type investments, when I hear 30 years, people look to us to be knowledgeable in layman's terms about what we're trying to do, right? Now, if that's a $1 billion effort, $2 billion, or whatever that number, we lean on our executive director, right, to let us know how this goes, right? And what opportunities are there. And so that's why I'm just trying to stay in layman's terms on the things that matter to them. So I'm excited to know I've been wasting money on alkaline water. But, I don't hesitate to drink tap water in the city of New Orleans. Like I said, having lived in other cities, and every time I check, we meet the mark. And so, and when you drink a lot of water, you understand that there's a variety of taste. And so I don't want to be biased, but I feel like, so hearing what Director Anthrop shared, I'm like, okay, it's not just my bias, there's some other people who concur. That stuff matters to people if we ever, get to the point where we need citizen support around our funding efforts. That's my opinion. So, but we lean on our executive director to let us know how we operate and fund our operations, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's a great segue, unless anyone has any other questions.
I want to make one comment as a quick point of information for the board. When I was the CEO of Philadelphia Water, we had a water quality master plan, water revitalization plan is what they called it there. $2.5 billion over 25 years with over 400 projects, doing things very similar to what we're talking about here. So we're not alone. Across the country, there are water treatment facilities that are aged, and it's time to replace them with major projects that cannot be done overnight. And so I just want to put that on the table as a point of reference.
As a quick follow-up to that, in general, I know you can't get into the weeds. What does that capital stack look like in general? That was what? Bond, how's that financed?
Bonds, it was having bonds, and it was also the rates, increasing the rates.
Okay.
There were times they increased the rates by 18%, and then they increased them, I think, again by 16%.
Okay.
Over a five-year period, I would say. And also too, again, they were able to get bonding, to get the bonds, and so that proceeds assisted.
Gotcha.
Major projects, one of them included even putting a tunnel under the Schuylkill River from one water plant to another water plant to allow for redundancy. So the major systematic projects that have a generational effect.
Yeah, I think we talked about redundancy at the retreat, understanding that we had 2 intakes out here, is that right? And so really curious about how that manifests in the future, that second intake pipe, or the one that's not being used anymore, the old one. if we can ever retrofit it for redundancy purposes.
That's Algiers.
That's Algiers, I'm sorry,
Two on
yes,
both
thank you.
sides, one on the west bank is Abservice.
Yeah, okay, got it, cool. All right, any other questions about this in-depth but short presentation? All right, great. If none, we'll move into our executive director report with our executive director, Mr. Randy Hayner.
If I may, I did want to make a comment about House Bill 573 and 1273. I wanted to state that we are keeping the employees up to date as far as sending them emails and also giving them information in their pay stubs to keep them up to date with what's going on. I want to say that the employees do have questions, questions as far as the stability of the organization and how it may or may not affect them as employees. And they also question where is Scribner's voice in the process. And so I just wanted to share that with the board. The board handles policy and makes those pronouncements, and I just wanted to share that with the board.
Appreciate that, it's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Okay. As you know, over the weekend, we had a major sanitary force main break. It was a 54-inch sewer force main that broke on April 17th. Scribner immediately mobilized a diving company to assess the damaged line. The sewer is continuing to discharge until we can stop the leak. We should have our line stops tomorrow, Thursday, and we hope to have it plugged by Friday. And then the extensive repair begins, which will take several weeks to do that. I want to assure people that no drinking water was impacted. We want to continue to say there's no recreational fishing in the canals. Impacts to Lake Pontchartrain will be evaluated. And also, I want to stress during this process, we've worked very closely with the Coast Guard, LDEQ, LDH. Matter of fact, LDEQ guided us as far as sample taking, which was done yesterday. We did it at the location of the break, the lock, and the high-rise bridge. The Coast Guard is responsible for investigating the incident. Again, it was a vessel that made contact in some way with our infrastructure. And LDEQ and LDH are the lead agencies for environmental and public health impacts. And so we'll continue to work very closely with them.
Can I ask a quick question about that? To what extent are we in contact with the company of the vessel that made the damage?
I was waiting for this.
I'll let legal talk, but I will say this, I don't practice law in the state of Louisiana.
Right.
But I will say that it's our understanding that they know what ship it was, okay? And so legally, we will investigate that at the right time. But we have not received a final report from the Coast Guard, so I think it's premature for us to go much further in the discussion.
Randy, do we have similar risk concerns about mains in the Mississippi River intakes?
Water or sewer intakes. So that is one of the reasons that we have pretty extensive protection around the intakes. So we do have protection structures as well as barges around the intakes. They have been hit in the past multiple times, which is why we do have those protection structures there for our raw water intakes. Yeah.
When it comes to the impact and the spilling and whatnot, is our infrastructure set up so that we would be warned or be notified about this happening? I know we received some notification from Entergy. So what's our system for understanding that something like this is happening? And if it's not set up, if it's not functional, is there some changes that we need to make, or how much does that cost? I mean, just high level, what are ways that we would be able to know ourselves without relying on Entergy to let us know?
Sure. So, really the only way we'd be able to tell would be to notice a change in flow at the wastewater treatment plant, which we were able to go back and see later. But in terms of, if we see that change, then you have to go locate the break. And, that may have been noticed, right? It may you have to go investigate the location of that, yeah.
As we go through the process, can we, at the appropriate time, I want to make sure we do get an update on any recovery opportunity when appropriate.
Absolutely. I will be working with the legal department to.
I would just say that we have been in contact with our outside counsel that handles maritime claims, and they will be engaging with the Coast Guard.
We just want to make sure it's in the report when appropriate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll keep you up to date.
thank you. I'm sorry.
One last question, questioning on the 54-inch main. That one was going directly to the treatment plant, Florida Avenue. Okay, so right now it's discharging into the industrial canal. And will it continue to do that until repairs are enacted?
So, we have to install line stops in order to be able to stop the flow. And so, that equipment, actually, just heard just a little bit ago, may not arrive until Friday, but I'm trying to get the updated timeline on that. And again, this is specialty equipment. You have to make the line stop for a specific pipe. So one of the first things that our team did, we mobilized a contractor. They got out to the locations of where we'll install those, excavated, found the pipe and to take the measurements in order to put in the order. This is not very similar to the situation we had with the water mains. So these are very large pipes. They have to make this, and that timeline is potentially now on Friday. So
Friday, the line stops go in.
Friday or Saturday for that to be, I'm getting the latest update right now. And then that would stop, that's our first priority, would be to stop the discharge, and then the repair plan will have to be determined. The divers have only been able to assess a certain amount of the condition just due to the ongoing flow and it being difficult to assess with so much flow coming out of the pipe. Then we would go ahead and determine what the best repair or replacement plan would be.
Okay, so the pump station that pumps through the force main, I guess my question is, once the line's closed, where does the sewage go?
Sure, very fair question. We would be able, in this instance, actually to route it through another force main back into the treatment plant, just would take a little longer to get there. So, great question. We do not anticipate this action to have any broader impact.
Okay, so there is a way to route it.
Yes, there is.
That's unique. Okay.
Yes, in this instance, not every location that we have in the city would be in that exact same, would have that opportunity.
Right.
But this does.
Good for us. Okay.
Question, and Caitlin, you mentioned specialized equipment, so much like the mains, this is not something that we can do preventative as far as these stops, when you're saying that it has to be fitted for this particular pipe. So, heaven forbid that has happened, but if somebody hit another one, it would kind of be the same reactionary measure because we can't really go in to each one and do something preventative?
Oftentimes, just depending on the location of the break in the main, that would be the case. There are a variety of valves in the system that we're able to operate. In this case, I think we may need to replace one that is in this vicinity, or we'll be investigating that as well. But each kind of each segment of the force main, I would say, is unique in its ability to be able to shut off. So in this case, I don't know, fortunate isn't the right word necessarily, but we're able to do that in this instance. But that's not necessarily the case for every single force main in the city.
Continuing the lead service line replacement program, we're looking at next steps. I'm glad to say that progress has been made. The selection committee selected CDM Smith as the program manager. LSL replacement contract for schools and early childhood centers continue to go on, and that includes over 600 public LSS lead service line replacements. I also want to state that one way the city council can help us in educating the public on steps they can do now to protect their health. We can provide one-pagers, and we will be providing one-pagers of this topic to them that they can share with their constituents and at their public meetings. We also told the city council if they wish for us to attend, we can do that too. But I'll say here for the record that what can customers do? They can use cold water for drinking, cooking, and making baby formula. When water is not used for 6 hours or longer, run a faucet for 3 to 5 minutes to flush out the line. use an NSF 53 rated water filter picture, or request one from Swipno. Request a lead test kit, replace your private service lines if possible, and then there's corrosion control adds extra protection. So these are things that people can do to protect themselves as we go through the process.
Director Hammond, and then you mentioned this is a way that the city council can work with us and help us out on getting things out to the public. And so can you expound on where we are in that kind of collaboration and what the opportunities might be for this and other initiatives that we really need to make sure widespread community adoption takes place?
What we have done is we're gonna put together a one-pager that we can share with them. And then as they have meetings in the community, they can distribute that. We're more than willing to also participate with them. We also will be having our SWIBNO, Sewage and Water Board, community meetings going out into different districts, starting very shortly. And I too will have that information with me and we'll share that with the public. But we basically just want to get it out to people by any means that we can, either by city council or through ourselves, to get that information out to them. Okay, the Dwyer Canal. As we previously shared, we have been investigating issues brought to our attention regarding sewer discharges into the Dwyer Canal. We've heard from residents who have reported sewer smells in the general areas, and people have shared with us this has been ongoing for years. As the complexity of the situation became clearer, we engaged a third-party contractor who specializes in this work to assist with pipe inspections to identify the locations and subsurface defects in the sewer lines. In late February, we also started collecting samples within the Dwyer Canal. We did smoke testing and dye testing, completed at Galahad, Arthur, in progress at Citrus, Bonita, and Merlin, and dye testing at Galahad identified 7 defects that need to be corrected, which we will soon address. I want to talk also about our action plan for the transmission main, water main replacements. And in short order, I'll go through it. When it comes to number 1, as you know, our plan has 6 different parts to it. The first one addressing urgent risk transmission mains. We added 30-inch valve at Spruce and Carrollton and finished repair at Magnolia, Jackson, and Phillip. Our next step is to go to South Claiborne and 3rd and 4801 Florida. The second part of our plan is to look at condition assessment on our oldest transmission main. We've conducted leak detection on repaired section of 30-inch main, and then we're getting quotes for multiple inline technologies with intent to begin first test in mid-May. That is the RFI that we've been talking about, which I think is going to be great because it gives the contractors a chance to come here, show their wares, and then we get to pick the best one that fits the need that we have. And so again, we have the issue of the RFI for assessment, repair, replacement technologies. Submittals will be due April 17th.
Just as a quick, and I'm sorry, this was a misunderstanding, any responses to questions were due last Friday, the actual submittals are due on the 30th, that was.
Okay, let me correct that.
Yeah.
Submittals due on the 30th, give some more time. And then we have, number 4, we have to develop near and medium priorities. The 30-inch water main on Magnolia would be a priority in addition to known JIRR transmission main projects. Next step, we will develop more comprehensive list with results of initial condition assessments. Number 5, evaluate hydraulic conditions. Owen and White was selected by the selection committee to update the potable water hydraulic model for a targeted area. Next steps include awarding the contract to selected bidder, contract negotiations, and notice to proceed. And then number 6, ultimately we develop a citywide condition assessment. The RP to be drafted later in 2026. This is a very important notification and document because we talked about having a plan in February and we developed a plan. And now you're starting to see us taking positive steps in completing important needs in going forward with that plan. And then also showing what our next steps are after we complete what is on the table at first. So we're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue to be open and transparent with the board and with the public, continue to mark our milestones, and continue to aggressively plan out what our next steps are and publicizing them.
Director Heyman, this is obviously available on the SWEPNO website, right?
Yes.
Are there any other efforts that we're making to make sure it's more accessible to public, both in seeing the plan, but also being able to understand the plan? Like, is there a layman's translation, or is there something that, some special effort that we're making to make sure the public can get it and digest it?
The communications department is working on that, we'll have something we can give out to the public that is, especially when we're out at our meetings.
Yeah.
We can give something out that is easier to digest. And I look forward to doing that. And again, I look forward to sharing more information with the customers as we go forward.
Right, it's being discussed at every community meeting that we attend at this point. It's also on social media to provide the updates, as well as this is the action plan. This is the steps that we've taken, made forward. Yesterday, we did an interview that will air later in the month of end of April, early May. It's going to air, and it also discusses the immediate action plan, so there is ways that we are trying to communicate that.
One question.
That is all that I have.
I've got one question. The inline technologies that you're looking at, can you just go a little bit more depth of what this looks like?
Yeah, sure. So there's multiple different types of this technology, but in general, it's using acoustic sensing, and so there's free swimming and tethered, and so there's different proprietary names for that. I'm just going to say some that are from Xylem, but Smart Ball is one of those technologies, and then Pipe Diver, and so that's proprietary to that company, but there are these different types of this from offerings from multiple companies. So those types of tools. There's also above leak detection via satellite. That is something we're actually moving forward with a little bit quicker at this point. That can help our teams look at a broader sort of general area and then be able to hone in a little bit. So there's multiple different things that we are interested in. I think it may be a combination of all of these things, right? And again, the purpose would be to help identify areas that we don't know about yet that could be a problem. Certainly, the preferred option would be able to have a routine replacement program, and we want to get there. But right now, we need to make sure that we're not missing anything that could be a problem sooner than later.
I think it would be helpful, and perhaps this is maybe something to take up at the next Finance and Administration Committee meeting, to understand the overall financial impacts of all of these, in particular, the transmission main issue, but also the sewer main issue that we've had, I can only imagine that this is all very expensive, and we haven't really gotten a detailed update on what the impacts of those costs are and where the funds are coming from, especially in light of the money that we're turning over to the city to help them with their cash crisis and other needs that we have ongoing. So I think it's important for us as a board to understand our financial position as we are spending significantly on these emergency issues as they're coming up.
One last point I'll make. Last week I was in Washington for the NACWA fly-in. That's when the different agencies, municipal water agencies across the country meet, talk about the very issues we were talking about in funding. We also get a chance to go up on Capitol Hill and talk. And I just wanted to stress two things. While I was there, I did talk to the members of NACWA, the presidents of NACWA and AMWA. I am on the board for both of those organizations. And with both of them, I inquired, are there any efforts to push for a new bucket of money, new funding to assist distressed cities like ourselves in meeting the mandate that we have with the transmission main replacements? And so they're sharing with us what they have, shared with us ideas on how to possibly get additional funding, but also looking at it if there's an ability to develop a new pot of money that we can pursue. I also went on the Hill and had discussions on finances for the organization.
So
Oh, no, you can go ahead first.
So I think I want to make sure we're clear, because I know what I heard, and I'm in line with you. I think in our next report, similar to how we have this immediate action plan in response to the events, maybe the financial impact of the immediate events from this first quarter, right?
Yeah, we can add that, that sounds good.
Is that, that's.
Yeah, I think just get like, I think this plan is great to show what we're doing, but I think it's also really important that we communicate to the public and to our, the city council and other stakeholders, the financial impact that this is having on the system, and how much it's potentially stressing our finances.
That's good, okay. And Cornelius?
Just kind of go back with Director Scruggs as far as accessibility for the public. Just kind of targeted demographics, and I know we want to be socially responsible with paper, 100% understand that. But just, can we have some kind of, the areas that would probably benefit from paper notifications more? Are they gonna get the paper notifications, as opposed to electronic dispersion?
We definitely have to consider the budgetary for the paper notifications to, a way that we have utilized paper notifications in the past has been inbuilt inserts, right? That isn't a significant cost effect, so we also have to consider that, but we have to find creative ways, I'm with you. We have to find creative ways to reach the older population who may not be looking at their phones or checking their emails. We do still have to do our due diligence there, and we are working on that. That's why a lot of times we do go to the community meetings. Those community meetings tend to be older, the older population, because they are very much so invested, and that is how we print in-house and give them that information in-house, but we are still looking at other ways to make sure that we are reaching that.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for your report, Executive Director Hayman. All right, and next we will go into our action items. So first up, we have Resolution R04-2026, amending sections 14 and 16 of the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans Plumbing Code relative to cross-connection control and stormwater. Mr. Corin Washington, is he presented? That's what I have down here. Is he still over there?
He is, let me just go grab him.
All right. Great. So we are ready to hear from you about amending sections 14 and 16 of the SWIPNO Plumbing Code relative to cross-connection control and stormwater.
Okay, perfect. So, hello everyone. So as it relates to section 16, let's go with 14 as it relates to the cross-connection control program itself. So the point of the revision is to give the customers the opportunity to appeal a judgment that's against them. So they have within 30 days to do so. And although we have been already practicing to do that, we haven't had it in writing. So this is just the opportunity to put it in writing for everyone to see. As it relates to section 16, with the stormwater itself, we want to do three things. So the first objective was to eliminate verbiage that's no longer needed. We did this update a year ago where we moved the definitions from this section to the front of the plumbing code. So now we're just trying to clean it up. Objective number 2 was to remove the numerical limits. All those were like sewer treatment. We don't treat stormwater. We couldn't meet those limits ourselves, so we wanted the opportunity to eliminate that because it's unenforceable. And objective number 3 is we needed the enforcement authority. So ever since we took over the small drainage back in January 1st of 2025, one of the big things that the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality before that kept asking us is, do you have the authority or a memorandum of understanding with the city of New Orleans to enforce anything that happens to the catch basin? And at that time, we did not. And by you all agreeing to adopt these changes, We already had some of the city ordinances already in the plumbing code, but this allows us to put additional city ordinances that deals just strictly with drainage and gives us the opportunity to move forward, so, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Washington. All right. May we have a motion to approve R 064-2026?
I'll move.
Moved by Director Cole, second by Director Pacho. Any questions about that? Good presentation. All in favor? Aye. Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All right, any opposed, any abstentions? None, thank you. Motion carries for R 064-2026. Next, we have Resolution R 044-2026, Award of Contract 2026 SWB 03, Program Management for the Lead Line Replacement Program. GSO team is, okay. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna to have Rebecca Johnsey on
I
that.
didn't see you up there.
Good morning, everyone. So this is a really exciting step for us in the lead service line program. This has been several years coming. The selection of the program manager will allow us to utilize the federal funds that we've been aggressively getting to do large-scale replacements. So program management includes a variety of items, things like maximizing grant funding, completing our inventory, managing those specific replacement contracts, completing replacements at schools and daycares by 2026, community outreach, completing replacements to an agreed upon rate and also outpacing that rate in disadvantaged communities specifically, data systems management, permitting, and also building local skills and workforce capacity. Normally, these would be presented at the F&A committee, but in our effort to shorten the timeline to get to the contract as expediently as possible, that's why we're presenting to the board directly, not the F&A committee first. So the selection committee met on April 2nd, where 4 bids were considered, and the committee moved to select CDM Smith for award, and that is what is represented in this resolution. There was a DBE goal, just so you know, a target goal of 35%, and the DBE participation was submitted at 42.1%, exceeding that goal. And their sealed proposal, which was not provided to the selection committee and was not part of the scoring, was in the value of $22,496,258 over a term of 2 years. Something to note is this is just the starting point in the contract negotiations. The next step is after an award, it is awarded, then it would go into the negotiation and then the legal team steps in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that that's the end of the presentation? All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve Resolution R 044-2026?
So moved.
Moved by Director Scruggs, second by Director Antrim. Any questions?
I do have some questions.
Yes.
If I may. I understand this is the second of these procurements. This has been one with a lot of scrutiny. I understand City Council did have some questions about the procurement. Were those, can you give us a rough synopsis of those and if they were answered and what those answers were? They had questions about language changes, scoring committee, et cetera.
Sure, so I can kind of give you the broad level of what was provided. There was questions on how the selection committee is composed. So the selection committee is composed based on policy 95. It very specifically describes what those 5 members are. In our instance, the functional expertise included in the panel, in the committee, included engineering management, water purification, environmental, plumbing, and the lead service line project manager. The lead service line, the project manager for these is a requirement of policy 95, and so the project manager was the only committee member who served in the previous procurement and this procurement. The evaluations, the committee member evaluated based on the respondent's experience with lead and copper rule compliance, successful management of similar large-scale programs, safety performance, and the skills and experience of the proposed team, They also had to provide references as part of their response, and those reference responses describing past work were also considered by the selection committee. As I mentioned earlier, the cost proposal was completed for 8 tasks. Each proposer was provided the exact same template to complete for the cost proposal. These cost proposals were not provided to the evaluation committee members nor included in the scoring criteria. One of the changes that were made, so from the original procurement to this procurement, what was asked of our design firm, AECom, was to codify all of the previous amendments that were made. So as part of the 2025 procurement, when questions were raised and answered, we asked them to incorporate that in the specs. That was one of the ways that we were able to shorten the timeline. So we knew the questions that were posed, we wanted to make sure that we answered them correctly. So as part of that, one of the minimum qualification changes were made from services to professional services. And AECom provided clarity on that change. And this is from their letter. And they stated, based on our understanding of industry experience, the clarification is not expected to exclude previous bidders. They also mentioned that the qualifications sought by Sewage and Water Board are for professional services to provide program management and include providing oversight of construction services, aka public works. This was the distinction that was intended by the clarification in the 2026 bid and is consistent with the addenda for 2024 SWB 105. Another item that was mentioned is that the selection committee retained the ability to select more than one bidder if they so chose. And the RFP also requested a workforce development approach, meaning that they needed to outline a plan to train and hire local plumbers, support others doing the same, and present an approach for creating and launching a mentor protege program in New Orleans.
Thank you. The second question I had, were the scoring results and the selection, was that open and is that available for folks to review if they would like to?
Yes, so that is a public meeting, and the video as well as the minutes, which include all of the consensus scoring, is available on swibno.org. So those are all available to anyone in the public.
Excellent, thank you. And were there any protests on this?
There were no protests in this procurement.
Got it. So if I may ask legal, has the window for protest closed or does that remain open?
The window for protest is closed.
Also, final note, love seeing the 42% DVE. I know Ms. Irma does an outstanding job. I just want to know for the record, I really look forward to seeing that being met or exceeded, and that would be the expectation. That's all I have. Thank you, sorry.
No problem at all. Any other questions? None? All right. All in favor to approve resolution R044 2026? All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries to approve resolution R044 2026. Next, we have resolution R040 2026, award of contract 2025 SWB 18 for skilled and unskilled labor for maintenance between the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans and Abacus Service Incorporation. Ms. Timmer.
Yeah, good afternoon, morning. So this was a item that was deferred as the F&A committee and has been brought to this committee. There was a protest on this, which is now concluded, and so that is now coming to the full board for award. This was a request for proposal for furnishing skilled and unskilled labor, was initially advertised in November 25th. And we received 5 proposals on December 4th. 3 of the 5 were determined to be non-responsive. The Selection Evaluation Committee met on March 16th, 2026 to review two response proposals and recommended the contract award to Abacus Service Corporation at a compensation not to exceed $5,025,000 for initial per year for an initial term of 2 years with 3 one-year renewal options.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve resolution R040 2026?
So moved.
Moved by Director Antra,
Second.
Second by Director Cole. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Public comment.
We do have public comment, Chair, Mr. Wade Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes. Should I speak?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Well, actually, we submitted a,
Stand.
I'm sorry. I'm Wade Joseph, I'm the president and owner of JEI Solutions. We submitted a formal protest, and we also submitted for an injunction as well today. So with that stated, there is a ongoing protest, and we would like to reserve our rights, all our legal rights to an opportunity to be heard as it relates to a proposal submitted on the RFP for the 2025 SWB 18 skilled and unskilled labor contract. So the report that was submitted, the question that was submitted, should I read that or it's already
If it's
in
part of
record?
your public comment, if it's part of your comment, you certainly can.
It was submitted previously. Should I read it or?
What I'm asking you to do, Mr. Joseph, is if it's part of your public comment, you should go ahead and read it.
If I don't read it as a part of my public comment, but it was submitted into the, to the board minutes, or as a part of this document, is that sufficient?
Well, I can't actually speak to what you submitted to the board,
Okay.
because I can't say whether I've seen everything that has been submitted. So I would hesitate to say that. But this opportunity that presents itself right now is an opportunity for you to make any comments regarding this matter. And keep it in mind, Mr. Joseph, you have just 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, no worries.
Quick point of clarification. When the public submits comment, are they able to submit both live comment and written comment?
Yeah, there is.
The law doesn't say.
It's not a legal question, it's for the board, huh? Board relations question.
The deadline to submit online, so far in advance before the meeting, it might be this morning actually, at least 2 hours before, to 7 a.m.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do have proof that we submitted prior to the deadline this morning, so that should be on the record. But, let me try.
He has it there for you.
Well, if someone submitted a comment online, shouldn't it be read to us by someone?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's actually here, so this is his comment.
My attorney submitted that comment, and I'd rather my attorney represent it. However, it does. Okay. Well, same difference is in the record, but I'll try and read it. It says, agenda action item, and it gives a resolution number ARA 040-2026, award contract 2025 SWB 18 for skilled and unskilled labor for maintenance. My comment, JEI object the board taking any actions furtherance of the contract related to RFP 2025 SWB 18 skilled and unskilled labor. SWB has arbitrarily I don't know how to pronounce it, capricious, I'll spell it, it's CAPRICIOUSLE, without just cause, rejecting JEI's proposal, and has further arbitrarily, capriciously and without just cause prevented JEI's solution from appealing this decision pursuing Sewage and Water Board on Policy Memorandum 83R. JEI has taken legal action and intend to obtain. JEI has taken legal action and intend to obtain injunctive relief. The board should not take any action which may have been undone, which may be undone as a result of the judicial proceedings. Thank you. So, me, I think, I'd like to say,
One last statement.
I got one little quick comment to make. I'd like to reserve all my rights, including legal remedies, request that the board defer actions until the issue is resolved.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on this
No other public comment, Chair.
comment? We deferred this, and then we were told we had it resolved. Can we, because I'm trying to reconcile resolved with public comment from a bidder trying to retain rights. That doesn't sound resolved. So help me level set on how we move forward if we have an active, it doesn't sound resolved.
Sounds like this information is new as of this morning. That was, I
Okay.
was not aware of that
Okay,
information. This sounds like it's very new, so.
okay.
And we may have to put it on hold until.
Well, the bid's closed.
Understand.
And I know that Mr. Joseph has referenced some legal action that we have not, at the Office of Special Counsel, been served with any documentation regarding any temporary restraining orders or injunctions of any kind.
Okay.
So what is the risk of us taking action on this item today?
There is no risk other than that Mr. Joseph certainly could avail himself of any legal action he perceives that is in his best interest. He's not prohibited from doing that. But as the process has gone, the time to file a bid protest is extinguished. So we're at the stage now where we have to take a vote on it one way or the other. But he is certainly not prohibited at any point in time to take whatever legal actions he deemed to be necessary on his behalf.
And so we have not received anything in the form of legal notification of protest? No. Okay. All right.
And so if he's filed something that we just have not been served with yet, that could continue in parallel
Correct.
as
Until we get some kind.
continue with our obligation under the bid.
Correct. Until we get some kind of court order that directs us to do something different.
I understand.
Am I allowed to say one other thing?
Not right now, sorry. So just to be clear, with all of that information, do we go back to a vote or we continue?
Go to the vote.
Yep, all right. So, again, may we have, or all in favor, I'm sorry, to approve resolution R040-2026?
Aye.
All right. Any additional registered public comment? None, you said.
No public comment, Chair.
Any opposition or abstentions from the board? Or questions?
No, not question, I would like,
Abstention?
no, abstention, I would like want to vote no.
No, we have one no vote?
Abstention.
Abstention?
Abstention.
Abstention? Abstention? Abstention for me as well. All right, so what is our count?
Board relations. Count. Seems like to me on the rough count. Yeah, it doesn't appear, I'm just confirming with board relations.
Yes.
2 for 1.
3 yes, 1 no.
What, 4 extensions?
favor, 1 opposition, 4 abstentions.
I didn't get a count, but it passes, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, that's not
That's
three in
We have to have a,
Okay.
Right.
All right, so we do not have a resolution R-040-2026 does not pass. And next we have 10 corresponding resolutions. May I have a motion to approve the 10 corresponding resolutions in Globo? They are R-032-2026, R-041-2026, R-034-2026, R-007-2026, R-012-2026, R-035-2026, R-036-2026, R-037-2026, R-038-2026, and R-039-2026. Moved by Director Antrim, second by Director Cole. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Seeing none, these 10 corresponding resolutions pass. Carried. Thank you. And now we are ready for executive session. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Director Thomas. Second by Director Pacho, I think I heard. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We're now ready for executive session. Yes, thank you. Thank you. May we have a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Director Thomas. Second by Director Pacho. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are now in regular session. There are 6 information items for board members to review. Special counsel, are there any public comments?
There is, we have one public comment.
Great, thank you.
Bless you, Mr. Young. Thank you. You have 3 minutes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I have a prepared statement. Greetings, board members, and Swebno colleagues. My name is Anthony Jean-Marie III, a lifelong resident of New Orleans, Louisiana, a community advocate and clergyman, pastor of a local church right here in the city of New Orleans. And more importantly, in this space, an employee of the Sewage and Water Board as a utility customer service manager for the past 16 months. After extensive dialogue, engaging the value sentiments of my colleagues, I believe that I speak on the behalf of myself and stand on the shoulders of the overwhelming majority of Swebno employees, many who are ardently in opposition to House Bill 573, or as we would know it now to be 1243. We reject any expansion of local control, which authorizes the city council to adopt ordinances that conflict with the superseding existing state laws regarding the Sewage and Water Board. We reject any expansion of rate policy and oversight that gives the city council authority to regulate and require approval for water rates, fees, billing policies, and operating capital budgets. We reject any expansion to own any more administrative authority that allows the city council to oversee board policies on finance, operations, governance, as well as the hiring of board employees. As it pertains to leadership structure, there is an openness about the changes on how the board's leadership is selected and having the mayor to serve as the ex officio president and the board potentially electing its own president from its membership. We believe in the plan that has been laid out about our institution's ability to execute the said plan. We wholeheartedly believe that the city council in its current state does not have the capacity, I say it again, does not have the capacity and really are quite shocked that they would have the temerity to seek an expansion of governance over Sewage and Water Board. It is the further belief that the House Bill 1243 could expose this utility to political interference, create financial instability, and it does not solve the root issues of funding our city's aging infrastructure. All that we ask for is a stronger voice towards our state's legislature regarding these matters, and we have the utmost confidence in Sewage and Water Board's current leadership, which includes Executive Director Randy Heyman, this board and our GSO team, which includes Caitlin Tamara as our interim, to lead this great organization into becoming an industry standard, which we will also positively impact our Fitch rating and S&P Global Bonding rating, and most importantly, our overall customer satisfaction. On a personal note, again, that's all I have to say. I just want to say thank you again for your time and for allowing me to speak freely to each and every one of you, and I got to get back to work.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
No other public comment, Chair.
All right, no other public comments. If there are no other matters, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Director Thomas.
Second.
Second by Director Cole. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.